Well, as we join us then, Mark Lotz, 163 riding for the Rabobank team, together with the rider also from the Rabobank team, Torvald Venenberg, 169, still on the front, but they're in sight of the main pack, and these two lads doing what they can. But what a tremendous effort then, and must have been, I suppose, orchestrated, if that's the word, then by Theo de Roux, the team manager of the Rabobank squad, to fire these lads off down the road, considering the fact that we started in Groningen on the first day of this race on the 11th of May. That's just on 3 weeks ago, when Dominguez got the victory on that occasion in the prologue time trial, and the pink jersey too. But moving on after the stage from Groningen to Munster into Germany, that was when Cipollini burst out the pack and got his first of 5 successes, and he also took over the pink jersey as leader on the road. In fact, he also took over the jersey for the points competition and the intermediate Intergiro team. So when he actually finished on the 12th of May, Cipollini had a nap hand. He had the lot. He had a stage and he had all the jerseys as well, and that was that as far as he was concerned. But bit by bit they took it off him, and we went up into Belgium on the stage into Liège. That's when Garzelli came through to win the stage, and so it went on all the way through with a number of different riders winning stages, the jersey changing over, and as I said earlier in the programme, to see Hepner take on the pink jersey was something. But one man who's really stayed pretty well all the way through in one jersey is Strazza in the jersey as the leader on the Intergiro competition. It's a rather complicated thing, and very much liked by the Italians, in which they time the riders at a point from the start. It may be within 10 kilometres, maybe 100 kilometres, and there they virtually stop the watch and have a little baby race almost. And in that competition, Strazza took over the jersey by the time I went to Luxembourg to Esch-sur-Alzette, and he's kept it ever since. So he's had that blue jersey, riding for the Phonak Hearing team, and he's been out there all the way through, and he's certainly going to keep it now. They won't catch him on that competition. But the Ciclamino one, that's the man who's leading on the points competition, he's gone backwards and forwards from Strazza and Cipollini, but as fast as people change their socks, these two lads have been changing over the jersey. And coming in to the stage today, there's just 1 point in the competition for the Ciclamino jersey. That's a sort of I don't know, like a plum, a Victoria plum type colour jersey. There's only 1 point separating them. Cipollini has 159 points, Strazza 158. So it depends who finishes in front of who today as to who gets that Ciclamino jersey. But Strazza's got the blue one, and at the moment Cipollini will have the Ciclamino jersey going into the finish today. Another jersey which has been decided is that of the King of the Mountains competition, and Perez Rubio, the Mexican rider, has 69 points ahead of Castelblanco, who has 33. Tonkov in third spot with 25 points, and so he will be there in the green jersey. And all being well, when we get to finish this race, then we'll have an opportunity of seeing those jerseys up on the rostrum. But as regards the team awards, and the Alessio team have dominated that. They're leading on time ahead of the Lampre-Daikin team, but there's not much in it between those two teams, and Rabobank back into third spot. But certainly they're not going to lose out today, Alessio. This pack will come in pretty well in together, I think, and they've also got the points for team as well. So those are the major awards. We look now at the people who've won in Milan in recent years. Going back, you can see over the recent years who's actually got the stage here. Well, Piccoli, he's still riding. That means he's got to pop off the front and catch people napping. That's his usual tactics. Guidi's gone home, got sick, and that was him out of it. Fagnini in 98, Cipollini 97, Uchakov 96, and now we're moving on behind that. Uchakov now, I think he's retired actually. Now Lombardi won't get the victory unless something happens to Cipollini. He's the lead-out man for Cipollini. He won in 95, you see. Zanini, Baldato, Indurain, that was on the time trial. And look at the number of times that Cipollini's name pops up in the last 10 years. It keeps coming up, and he's still soldiering on in the pack now. He's 35 years of age, so all you couch potatoes who think, you know, once you're past 30, you're over the hill and it's all downhill from there. Not at all. You've still got, as you can see with Cipollini, he's lugged his body over the big mountains. If you've been seeing some of our stages, you'll see some of the thumping great mountains going like 2,200 200 meters up in the sky, up at altitude, and whilst we've seen the mountain goats romping up there like they're out for a Sunday stroll on their bikes, you imagine the big blokes like Cipollini, they drag their bodies over the top, and they have to race. They don't sort of say, okay lads, we'll just sit here and tootle along, because they have to get inside the time limit. And the other day, I remember Pataki got in with about, he was 26 minutes after the winner or something, and they shut the door at 27 minutes, so he just got through on that particular occasion by 1 minute by the skin of his teeth. They're the Psycho team in the red jerseys. Well, they are not that happy really with having lost their number one man, who was going to do so well in this race, because Simoni, last year's winner, has the number one as the overall winner from last year. They're coming on the front now, the Psycho Longoni Sport team. Longoni Sport, but Psycho manufacture the coffee machines, and they're very simple ones you can have at home, or you go into a cafe and there you see the coffee machines. They make those. And Longoni Sport, who co-sponsor the team, they're an out-of-town sports group that sell all the sort of clothing and equipment. If you're into sports, then you go and find them on the out. We don't quite have them. I think possibly Olympus Sport was the last one who tried that one. Halfords do a similar thing out of town, but only concentrate on bikes and bits of clothing that go with it. But Longoni Sport, it's just very much a bit like they have in Decathlon, I suppose, in France, and they're co-sponsoring the Psycho team, who at the moment are obviously considering their options if the Tour de France say, no, we're not going to have you in our team because, or in our race, because of the cloud hanging over Simoni. I say Monday, tomorrow, all revealed, and you'll have to pick it up off the net, I suppose. Watch Eurosport News. If you do get Eurosport News, it'll be on there as well. Or alternatively, go search in the net to see what's happening. Or I suppose eventually it'll pop up in Cycling Weekly on Thursday. I suspect, although it's a bank holiday, they may keep the pages open to pick up news like that, but that will happen tomorrow. At least that's what they say, but you never know, they might delay it. So for Psycho then, disappointment for them, having lost Simoni under that big black cloud, and they're soldiering on now, the riders then in the red jersey, just I think to fly the flag for behalf of their sponsor, as they become infiltrated then by the Index boys, and that on their coffee bicycles, riding in support of the man in the pink jersey, Salvadelli, who survived yesterday's time trial in a remarkable way. The overall situation then is Salvadelli is in the lead on the general classification. Hamilton is second by 1 minute and 41, and Coccioli is third at 2 minutes and 12. Well, I've just been rolling the graphics there. Galetti just picked him up in the background, and well, a couple of years ago in the Tour Down Under, he won a stage there when he romped off, and all the Italians put the block on things, and he spent pretty well all day out on his own, and then got into Victor Harbour to win the stage. And a young man called Brown and Stuart O'Grady fought out the sprint for the second and third places on that occasion. And although that Galetti's lead had been over 9 minutes at one time, they got to within about 1.5 minutes of him at the end. And also remember that particular occasion, that was when the Linda McCartney team were riding, and a fellow called Mackenzie was riding, and Neil Stevens, who was the team manager of the Linda McCartney team on that particular occasion, the Tour Down Under, Neil had gone along with about maybe 5 miles to go. Up to Neil Stevens, drove up to Mackenzie and said, right, Macca, he says, you go, you attack now. And then he dropped back in the team car, and Mackenzie didn't attack. And at the end of the race, Mackenzie, I don't know where he was, 9th, 10th, 12th, where he was. He was up in the little pack just behind O'Grady and Brown. And Neil Stevens went to him at the finish. He said, I told you to attack then. And Mackenzie said, I thought it was too far. And Stevens says, if you'd gone, you'd have got, the bunch would have caught you. I told you to go. And what you're going to do now, mate, you're going to ride back to Adelaide. And in 25 miles, he made this bloke, he put bottles in his back pocket, off you go. And he made him ride all the way back to the hotel in Adelaide, 25 miles away. And that was Neil Stevens in charge of the very much Linda McCartney team was now gone away because the man who was running the thing in the following year forgot to pay the riders and went into all sorts of debts. Anyway, that's back down there in the Tour Down Under. And I mentioned there this fellow Brown, who entertained us early on behind Cipollini by getting a second place on that first stage of the race. And everybody looked around and said, where the hell's he come from? Well, he comes from Australia. In the end, he went home after a few days. I think he got sick, or certainly it was new to be press ganged in. He just got to put into the team at the last minute. But he's been riding in Moscow, where there is one of the rounds of the World Cup on the track in Moscow, and he's just won the points competition in Moscow on the track, so he's pretty likely as an BMX rider too as well, so he's just ridden the track and got the points competition. But good news for Britain, and I'm sure the Queen will send her congratulations if they get to know it by the way for Moscow. Perhaps they might sort of send a message across that in fact in the World Cup in Moscow, the good news is that in the event for the team sprint, they call it, we have 3 riders on there, the sprint, that Great Britain won the sprint, beat Australia and Germany. So Britain first, Australia second, and Germany into third spot. That was in the Vitesse, that was the sprint for teams, and that of course is the one in which our lads have grabbed medals over the years now, both in the World Championships and in the Olympics. So they're obviously keeping their tails up and going for it out there in Moscow. Hope the weather's good for them in the World Cup out there. Right then, also a bit of news by the way, talking about the Australians, and Brown there is doing rather well in the Tour of Luxembourg on the 3rd stage. Sweet got that one. Corey Sweet. Now Sweet is the brother of Jay Sweet, who's also been riding for a bit. Jay Sweet having ridden for the Big Matt Aubervilliers team. Well, Corey Sweet, his brother, won the stage yesterday in the Tour of Luxembourg. And Hondo, who retired from this race when his mother died, and he won a couple of stages last year in the Tour of Italy. Well, Hondo was also riding, finishing 10th spot, because the funeral's now over and done with. He's back riding his bike. And Hondo then finished 10th on the stage in the Tour of Luxembourg, won by Corey Sweet, riding for the Batavus team. And I mentioned that too, not just to pass the time away, but because Luxembourg is where the Tour de France is going to start this year. And if you haven't already made your... Oh, by the way, leading overall on the Tour of Luxembourg is a fellow called Lundqvist from Sweden, who rides for the Factor team. And perhaps I shouldn't mention Sweden because they've just drawn with Britain, haven't they, in the football. Anyway, he rides for the Factor team. Lundqvist is now leading in that competition. And also going back to yesterday after Corey Sweet, a chap called Christensen was in second spot, another ex-mountain bike rider who was there riding for the Factor team, Lenny Christensen finishing second. So Luxembourg, don't forget, book your seats now if you're going out there to watch the Tour de France. That's where it all starts. Lovely old town, Luxembourg, and well worth a visit if you can make it. So have a look in the cycling publications. You'll find that there are various people who do organise trips to the start of the Tour de France, and if you don't make your own way, then see if you can get on board if they've still got some places left. So it's worth going there because David Miller now looks like he's on his way back and could be in there for the prologue time trial. They have one prologue time trial on the Saturday and then a big loop per single day race round Luxembourg on the Sunday. Then they head out from there too. So find out if there are any special trips being organised. Tony Dawes got a company called Something Pursuits that will organise things. Of course, Graham Baxter will do it. There are other people too who'll fix you with a chance to go there. But find out what's going on. If you want a trip across to Luxembourg, nice little place, by the way. The race went through there this year, the Tour of Italy, just to celebrate the opening of or starting up many years ago of the European Union. So our camera's dropping down this gay, colourful sight and looking down there at the pale blue jerseys, and our camera's just moved away. Well done again to the Kolpak team. They came in here just sort of making up the numbers, and Dennis Lungi of Kolpak got himself a stage victory, and that I think just shows you that the little fish, they were looking down in there now, you can see 198 on the screen. That is the Japanese rider, and as the World Cup is starting in Japan, or started on Friday, it's nice that our camera has picked up the Japanese rider. He survived the race. There are only 140 left. He's 139th is Nodera from Japan. And of course the Japanese, whilst they don't have many good road riders, at least they make some damn good equipment. Mr. Shimano providing many of the teams here with the equipment, and so it's nice that Nodera has made his way all the way around here, riding again with that team Kolpak Astro that had Dennis Lungi win the stage a few days ago. So even the lowly teams have taken a chance to pick up the publicity. Well done to them, and good luck to everybody in the football in Japan. Well, our cameras then just picking up the pink jersey. He's now got 18 kilometres to go towards the finish of this race. 12 laps of a circuit, and we've got 3 to go then on this, the finish of the 85th Tour of Italy. The field all together as they can't keep the speed up here. A, to make sure the pink jersey stay there. To B, the lads from the Acqua Sapone, they're going across your picture to make sure that nobody jumps away, and Cipollini's denied the chance of getting his 39th victory in the Tour of Italy. So that's the situation on your screen now as we go around this circuit, which takes them up the Corso Sempione and round the Via Canova, and then back down past the Piazza Castello, and then back up through in towards the finish, going up and down one side of the road, and then swinging around this remarkable parkland too as well. An ideal circuit it is, and doesn't cause too much trouble to the traffic in the centre of the town. Those you may come across here to the Fiera Campionare, Campionare, that is the big area where they have all the exhibitions. The cycle show is just down the road from where it is here as well, and so we're right in a lovely part of Milan, not causing too much trouble right now, and you can see the riders here just thankful. I think it's all coming towards a close on these lovely wide city streets here, which there are still 1 or 2 tram tracks dotting about the place. And I've mentioned in the past, but if you're new to watching cycling on Eurosport and maybe stay with us after the motorcycling, or in fact you'll begin to switch on looking for the tennis coming up later on after this particular burst on the banjo from the bike riders going around the centre of here. And then very interesting how the traffic has evolved over the years here, and I've just been hearing over my headphones we're going to have I think the most aggressive rider information coming up. Now they call it most aggressive, but it's to do with a chap who goes the longest way on his own. Here we go. And boom. Oh no, it's getting like going at the end of school, isn't it? You know, so they said best aggressive rider, up comes the best young riders, and Popiev there, just 22 years of age, he's the under-23 world champion. Cadel Evans there is now, these are the positions they are, by the way, 12 for Popovic, 14 for Evans, in 16th spot is Pelazzotti. These are all the lads for the future, by the way, and there in 19th place, Perez Cupio is he's 24 years of age, 19th. He is also the King of the Men's competition, so that's a little graphic to show the best young riders below 25 in fact, and running down the list here you can see where the rest of them are, and so these are the young riders, where they're placed, under 25-year-olds, because it really comes beyond 25 when you start to be able to master the art of riding for 3 weeks and 2,500 miles on your bicycle. And that chap Kessler there, lying 22nd, doing a great job for Hepner, who had the pink jersey for what, 11 or 12 days, and Hepner, 37 years of age, relied on young Kessler as the telecom team were riding hard, pulling back the brakes when Hepner had the pink jersey. But the last man ever to peel off on the mountains, who was really busting a gut to keep company with his team leader, was young Kessler, and so I think he'll get a nice Christmas card from Hepner, who I'm not quite sure if he's signed yet for next year for the telecom team, who a bit short of Hugh Bob or euros or two to pay him next year. They're trying to drop off a couple of riders in their late 30s to make way for some new young talent, but I suppose if Hepner says no, you won't have me on board, so I'll go somewhere else. So a number of people will take him on board with his experience, and the fact he's worn the pink jersey for longer than any other German in the Tour of Italy. Right, there they go, all strung out now, pretty well close together, and just keep the old headphones going, because I think we'll probably go back to that graphic showing the most aggressive riders. Our cameras are picking up there in the pink jersey, bottom of your screen, Sabadelli, and they're the blue and the lighter grey colours of the Fassa Bartolo team. Well, they've had a very disappointing Tour of Italy. They came in with such high hopes, did the Fassa Bartolo team, and one by one their hopes have been smashed, and that's what happens in tours, because Bartoli, he crashed and hurt his pelvis, so he was out, he was the leader, and then Belli, who looked like going quite well, got sick and he had to drop out, and the other man, Casagrande, who'd been up there having a go at the pink jersey, Casagrande ran into one of the riders from the Columbia Selle Italia team and was accused of knocking him off the bike. In fact, the poor lad ended up, did Freddy Garcia, with something, two different stories. One, he had 11 stitches in his face, and one he had 30 stitches in his face. Whatever it was, he came down with a bang, and so the judges threw Casagrande off the race. So Fassa Bartolo lost very quickly. Bartoli, Belli and Casagrande, that was those men out of the race. They've lost Stangelli too as well. So Pataki is a jolly useful sprinter, and if the cameras go back up there again, watch out for him wearing number 55. Honchard, their time trialist, has been doing the best he could to get a success for them, but he just didn't quite make it yesterday in the time trial. So he finished in second spot behind Gonzalez from Kelme. So yesterday's time trial result, Gonzalez got that one. Honchard was in second spot, and Sabadelli, with the ride of his life, kept the pink jersey because he finished ahead of Hamilton, who was snapping at his heels. So that's the situation yesterday, and I say Fassa Bartolo now not too bad. There they are, they're the sort of bluish sliced parts of their jersey going down towards their shorts, and the top, that greyish and whitish top to them. So Pataki is going to try and, I think, stay close to Cipollini, who's just at the top of your screen there in the magenta coloured jersey, and then swarming round about him in the yellow. Those are the coast riders who, if Psycho do not get selected for the Tour de France, what they have been selected, but they get thrown out for the problems with Simone, then surely the lads in yellow must be looking for a chance to ride. But if they do get to ride the Tour de France, the coast team, they won't be allowed to ride in those yellow jerseys, because it'll be conflicting with the jersey of the overall leader. So you'll find them that they'll have to switch to another colour. Well, here we go then, as now with 2 laps to go then, as now the Acqua Sapone are really working out the front then. They've got to keep the lid on this particular one. They can't allow anybody to slide off. We saw the Rabank team go down there, and now look at the long string here. They're going round here at around about 32, 33 miles an hour, and down the straight here they'll be touching 35, 37 miles an hour, ready for the sprint. So the speed is really up now with 2 laps to go, and the circuit here, some 6 kilometres around the circuit, so that's just on 12 kilometres left to go. That's about 8 miles left, and so it won't take them long to go round the course to see who's going to win the final stage of the Tour of Italy this year.
The Giro live.
Well, inside the final 2 kilometres now, and certainly winding up the speed on the front are the riders from the Acqua Sapone Cantina Tollo team. Cantina Tollo, an import-exporter of wines, now sponsoring this team here, which has entertained us all the way through with the antics of Cipollini. Can he get the stage victory today? Well, who's going to try and dislodge him? Robbie McEwen could have given him a bit of a fright, but Robbie went home to look after his new baby and meet up with his wife, because Robbie his wife gave birth to Ewan McEwen. My goodness, that's a mouthful. Ewan McEwen then, and I know, Robbie, if you're at home watching these final stage, and wish you were in here, but Robbie McEwen won the final stage of the Tour de France a few years ago, and his team allowed him to go back to meet up with his young son and his wife, and so right now he'll be relaxing, getting ready for the Tour de France, and looking forward perhaps to getting the final stage in the Tour. That's a great accolade, but certainly had 2 stages in this race, did Robbie. So the Lotto Adeco team were pleased with that. Looking back down again at this remarkable castle, and we're now going to bring you the graphic which we promised about the aggressive rider. Well, when they say aggressive, it wasn't that he went out thumping people. This is the man who had the brass neck to go off on long lone breaks, and the competition was run, as you see all those names down there, of the riders who were in a breakaway group that had to be less than 10 men, or 10 or less, and they had to go away and do more than 10 kilometres. So that then they started to log the distance, and you just saw there that Piccoli won the race overall. You can see here these other riders, all of them popped off with a group that went on a breakaway, and those are kilometres on the right hand side. So aggression means in this case they weren't out there thumping the daylights out of somebody. They were determined. See the young Lotz, for instance, by the way, in 7th spot, all that 139 kilometres he did almost on his own. He'd gone bang very early on into a race one day, and off he went, and that was it. Where some of the riders got in little groups and managed to notch up their performances. And the prize, by the way, is a scooter. And we've got, what, 9 kilometres to go now. They've got a Piaggio scooter, and it's interesting to see how many of these big towns, the big cities like Milan, Paris, wherever you go across Europe, and now scooters are proliferating. We don't see quite so many scooters in Great Britain and London, but we do see in London, of course, a lot more bicycles being used, and the use of bicycles has rocketed in London. And there's going to be a nice bicycle show in London towards the end of September, the last week in September, when we'll be covering the Tour of Spain and the World Championship for you. There's a cycle show in London, and the use of bicycles now is growing. Of course, when Mr. Ken Livingstone puts that sort of special charge on cars coming into the centre of London, more people ride bikes too as well. And well, these lads are along here. I mentioned earlier on about the trams. They've been coming back into various towns, but they've ripped up the tram tracks now. And this is the joke of it all, by the way. I've got time to tell you, haven't I? If you haven't heard it before, in the early 1920s, the trams over here in Milan were actually laid down by British tram engineers, and they brought the British trams over. And because British trams were designed to suit the way that we drive in Great Britain on the left-hand side of the road, when the car drivers came into Milan in the early 1920s, they had to switch from driving on the right-hand side of the road to the left-hand side of the road. This is true. And you can imagine the consternation it caused. And Mr. Mussolini came along in 1923, and he said, we're not having that. And he changed the whole thing round and made the Italians drive on the right-hand side of the road. It must have been absolute hell. I mean, mind you, the Italians now, the way they drive, I suppose it doesn't make much difference. But certainly that was the situation all those years ago, when the Brits laid down the original tram tracks for their system in Milan. And I wonder, perhaps somebody can tell me, and by the way, you can always write to Eurosport at in Theobald's Road in London. Theobald's Road is where we have the headquarters in London, and to write to Eurosport there, because you don't all have email facilities, that I know, but I'm interested to know. I understand in Britain we drive on the left-hand side of the road because it has something to do with the old days of coach and horses, and the man who drove the coach from maybe on the coach routes from London to Bath or London to York or wherever London to Brighton, they had the coaches, that he had to sort of sit on the right-hand side and control with the leads to the horse with his left hand, and use the whip to control the lead horse on the right-hand side. I don't know, but that's they're saying it had to do with, we drove in Britain on the left-hand side because it's to do with the way that we started out with coach and horses. I don't know, but why is it then the Japanese drive on the left-hand side of the road like we do in Britain? Of course, they obviously do in places like Australia and New Zealand, where the Brits sort of set up the whole operation, so we sent our cars out there. But you can imagine out in Japan right now, for those taking part in the World Cup, those nations that are used to driving on the right-hand side of the road, the teams go out there, they don't actually do much driving. You imagine the journalists and everybody else suddenly find themselves driving on the left-hand side there in Japan, apart from having to try and read the graphics, because I don't know if you've ever been to Japan, but my goodness, it's amazing to try and understand all the graphics and so on. I've so they've plenty put words up there in English. Anyway, the bell goes now. That's an international sound which says 1 lap to go. Enough of this rubbish about driving on the wrong side of the road. The lads then spread out across the roads in Milan, got the complete centre to themselves, and 1 lap to go, as now on front, as we expect, we see Cipollini's team starting to wind it all up. And those then are the team from Aqua Sapona Cantina Toll. Let's give them a rundown. They start to ride it up now. That's the Slovenian champion, Dergank, on the front there. Wearing number 11 will be Cipollini in the magenta jersey. Number 12 is Conti. Number 13, we've just seen him on the front. Unlucky for some, but he's the Slovenian champion, is Dergank. 14 is Gasparoni. 15 is Colombo. 16 will be the last man to lead out Cipollini, that'll be Lombardi. 17 is Scarponis, 18 is Sierra, and 19 Trenti, who sounds like an Italian, but actually he comes from America. He's been racing a long time over there in America. Now he's riding with the Aqua Sapona Cantina Tollo, who've got to keep Mr. Cipollini ahead of Strazza, who's got a blue jersey, and Strazza is lying 1 point behind Cipollini in the points competition. Looking down there, you can see that on the left-hand side, that Victoria Plum type coloured jersey of Cipollini, surrounded just in front by the Aqua Sapona, but the acceleration is now beginning to come from other teams, as infiltrating there with 5 kilometres to go. We can see the riders from the Calme team starting to go. Well, they've got Mr. Vicioso, the pretty sharp sprinter too as well. Can they pull this one off? Can they get that one? He wears 81 on his back in the green, white and blue striped jersey. And what a great ride they had yesterday from Aitor Gonzalez, who won the time trial. Can he time trial at the front? But the speed is up now. Very difficult indeed for that one. Strazza's wearing blue then, riding for the Phonak team, who should be able to pick him out. And then moving up there with the blue shorts and the greyish top to them for the Fassa Bertola team, Bataki wears 55 on his back, looking for a chance then to outwit this lot. But, well, Cipollini is well protected. The speed is up. Still then, on the front, Calme, still just behind him. The lads from, and I think that's still the rider from the Calme team, and that's intriguing because there's nobody else behind him. I can't think what the hell he's doing out there at the moment, because there's nobody from his team sort of in his wheel right now. So, well, Leone's just ploughing a lone furrow here, and there's none of his teammates out there, and he's just busting a gut. Look at this lot behind him from Aqua Sapona, and begin to move up then. I can see Fassa Bertolo trying to put the box on it. If they can clamp the box down and stop the Aqua Sapona team from leading out Cipollini, maybe they won't put the lid on. There's now also hovering round about there. The Rabobank team begin to move into the frame as well. Rabobank don't really have an out-and-out sprinter with them, but they might try and go for a long one if it just the pace drops. That's what the job of the Aqua Sapona team to do, is to keep it up so nobody can take a flyer. Just looking back here now, top shot now, split shot, to see one or two other teams have gone up there, sent a man, then they've just found the speed too much and they've drifted back. A fantastic job being done by the Aqua Sapona Cantina Tolla team, no doubt about that. Just drifting into there, you can see Saki from the Psycho Longi Sport team, number 8 for the lads in red, just drifting in behind the wheels, trying to find a space. And the Coast Riders also then beginning to try and come up there, but can they just hold the speed? Can they infiltrate again? Well, I don't know if they're going to do anything here in the sprint coast, and I'm still waiting to see what's going to happen with the Fassa Bertola team. They must be the best prospect. Well, the speed here is so intense. I mean, this chap on the front, Dergank from Slovenia, he's just spread this lot along. He's now done his bit of work, and he's just peeled off again, and then they begin to take over. You can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. It's so difficult as we're going in then towards the final few kilometres of this race, and whoops, a bit of pushing and shoving. The Calme rider was zigzagging all over the place, managed to stay just about upright. That was Galvez, who's quite a useful little sprinter. Galvez trying to hold his position, and there you can see that just dropping back in the fray with that sort of red splosh on his Fassa Bertola team. That's Konishev. Konishev taking silver medal in the World Championship a few years ago with a superb sprint. He's quite a quick man off the mark, but I think he's lost a bit of his zip now. He used to be winning stage in the Tour of Italy. I think what he's trying to do then is to lead out Pataki. He's infiltrated the Aqua Sapona Cantina Tollo team. He's back there with so he's a Russian national champion. That's why he's got the dark blue and the red strip across it. And now they're just picking out the man leading out for the Aqua Sapona team, Skirep, the 37-year-old. Conti's 37, Cipollini's 35, Lombardi's 32. There's a whole galaxy of riders here. Gasparoni's 31. It's a 30-plus club almost, I suppose you might call it. But they've got the experience. They know what they have to do. They're determined. They lay on the wheel. They keep in the wheel. There's Cipollini now. Because it's Cipollini moving through, and my goodness, he's got a well-trained team there. And just behind him, Mikkelsen there for the Team Coast with the white hat on. Mikkelsen from Team Coast, the 33-year-old rider from Denmark, is sat very securely on the back wheel of Cipollini. And then just up in front of him, number 55, that's the rider from Fassa Bertola, Pataki. I'm surprised he's gone one up in front, but he's done just that. Still back there too is Saki from the Psycho team, wearing number 8 on his back there in the red, as one by one the lead-out men begin to run out of puff. 1 kilometre to go. This will be over and done with in about 1 minute flat, and suddenly we can see Gellersteiner starting to close up here. One of their riders having a bit of a go here as he tries to come through. Hasselbacher is their best sprinter. Can he make it then? As still Cipollini has got some way to go yet, and now he might be boxed then, because suddenly Mikkelsen comes up against him. Hasselbacher too in the yellow and in the white with the dark blue for Gellersteiner. Still then on the front. His lead-out men have got a bit splattered now. He's not got a very clear run. He's got to push his way through, and I think he's on the back wheel of Pataki. And looking over his shoulder, Lombardi says, "Where are you, Mario? Mario, where are you?" Well, I've got to wind this one up, and Pataki, he's towing Pataki to the finish. He's taking Pataki. Can Pataki stay in there? And can Cipollini come past Pataki? Or is he going to lose this one out? Will Cipollini lose on the 6th occasion as Mikkelsen zooms off from the right-hand side? Mikkelsen from the Coast team starts to go a long way on the right-hand side. Now on your left-hand side in the yellow as Cipollini bursts out the pack, and yet again the Lion King roars. Well, he's done it. He's done it again. Cipollini has got the final stage. Well, Cipollini then rocketing across the line. A brilliant performance by him yet again. The Italian has made it to the line, and that is 6 victories in this year's Tour of Italy. What a performance. Who would have thought it? Because Pataki took the wheel, and you can see his team are saying, well done, congratulations. That was some performance. Looking back down that remarkable parkland, and Cipollini, Pataki, Hasselbacher, well, they tried to put the block on him, didn't they? But it didn't quite work out, and in the end, that was it. He was done. And there, that was the wonderful rider yet again for the man who's not only won the 6th stage of the Tour of Italy, but he's also kept that magenta jersey. He was 1 point away from Strazza. Strazza just didn't have the anything left in his tank to have a crack at getting the victory there. He just was nowhere to be seen, so Strazza couldn't pit past Cipollini, and so Cipollini now has got it. There we are, Castlefoot so down there, and this is an amazing big capital. Used to be a great big fortress here. You can see now with walls round about. It all got blasted some years ago, but there's Mikkelsen on the left-hand side in the yellow, starts to try and put the block on Cipollini, and Hasselbacher too on the right-hand side in the Gerolsteiner colours. Look, they have to work their way round the slow-moving riders from the Aqua Sapona team that were peeling off one by one. Mikkelsen managed to get himself in there, and then he launched, we watch now, a very long break, but Pataki was very astute here. He got on the wheel of Lombardi, which meant he had the shelter on the way down. Now, certainly in a sprint, Pataki would be also towing Cipollini, who was looking to see who's round about him, But as they switched then, the thing was, if Pataki could get that flyer off Lombardi's wheel, as he had to go then, as Lombardi kicked back, and on the right-hand side, Mikkelsen saw his chance, took off down there, but look at Cipollini, he's almost coasting, isn't he? He's trying to say, well, let's have a go any moment now. Pataki's stopped, so I'll just throw my bike across the line and get my 6th victory. Wham! Poof! You've got to hand it to this guy, haven't you? I mean, he really is a character. And cycling, one thing about it, you can see them here, can't you? Like the motorcycling you've been seeing on Eurosport, you can see them out there on their motorbikes. And whilst motor racing, I don't want my friends on the motor racing side with Martin Haven to give me a sharp clip round the ear. When they're inside the cars, you can't see them. But my goodness, in cycling and motorcycling, you can see them. You can see the elation. You can also see the drama when things go wrong. When Cadel Evans the other day just went through hell and high water and just drifted back on the climb and lost nearly a quarter of an hour in less than 5 miles. And that you've seen on Eurosport in these last 3 weeks, if you've been with us through what's been going on. You've seen riders out there going through terrible occasions, and it really, for many of them, they've now finished and they've been very satisfied. Their wives, their mothers, their girlfriends, their family will be here, and they'll say, crack, I've done it. I finished in the 85th Tour of Italy. And they all look back at what had happened and what might have been. And certainly, I suppose one of the men of the match had to be, as we look now down at the Duomo, the Plaza Duomo. This is where the Milan-San Remo starts, where that big race in March was won by Cipollini. Now he's won here in Milan as we pick up this famous area in front of Duomo. It's the 3rd largest in the world, by the way, after the cathedral in Seville and also after St. Peter's Cathedral too as well. You can actually see this great Duomo if you go right up in the Alps and look down into Milan. That's the other thing about the Tour of Italy, with the Alps and the Dolomites so close to the town finish here in Milan. You never know. Well, you've only got very good odds in the bookies about Cipollini winning today, but you never know until we get 2 or 3 days from the Tour of Italy, and in fact even to yesterday with the time trial, who's going to run out victor? Well, Cipollini, I'll say you wouldn't have got very decent odds on him today, because certainly he was in the frame to win it ahead as Pataki and Hasselbacher, and that's what he's done right now. But who would have thought then? We thought Hamilton might get Salvadelli in the time trial yesterday. It didn't work out that way. Evans was going so well, and finally the distance, 222 kilometres, got him the other day, and he dropped out of the frame. The time that Hepner stayed in the pink jersey this year, that was a great occasion too. But also those who dropped by the wayside for various reasons in the Tour this year. Who would have thought that we'd have lost so many riders in the race this year for so many different reasons? Of course, you get sick, yes, you get crashes, and yes, there are reasons when they come along and test people, they find people who've been cheating, and I just hope these tests go on and we wheedle out the wrongdoers, not only the riders themselves, but also the people who supply them and encourage them, because the vast majority of the riders want to ride full stop, and want to ride clean as well. Here, Mikkelsen storming away for the team coast. We'll certainly be waiting for the news for the next few days as to whether he and his team might get into Tour de France. No chance of seeing Cipollini in the Tour, by the way. He and the organiser don't exactly see eye to eye, and he's going to have a bit of a rest now, and he's now saying he wants to ride the World Championships in October, because it's an undulating course that is said to suit sprinters, and the Italians are very good at keeping the lid on things, and it could be then, if Cipollini is selected to ride the World Championships in October, that he might get top and tail the season, having won the Milan-San Remo. Can he win at the end of it all the World Championships in October? That'll be on Eurosport. We're going to give you that. We're also coming up just 2 weeks from now to bring you the Tour of Catalonia for Monday through till Sunday, and then of course the Tour de France, when I'll be joined by Sean Kelly with his in-depth knowledge of that great race, and that will be on Eurosport. And then after that we've got the World Cup. We come back on that for the 3 classics, then on to the Tour of Spain, then of course the World Champion. Will this man be a world champion at the end of it all? My goodness. And we need characters like this, don't we, in sport? And there's no doubt about it. I mean, you think, look at the size of this fellow. He's gone over those thumping great mountains. It hasn't all been, well, I'll just sit in here and ride my bike. Because the day that Evans took a pasting, they rode their bikes the leaders. The winner's time was 7 hours and 12 minutes, and Cipollini and the rest came in about half an hour down. You can imagine that, nearly 8 hours of racing, and he's kept his speed, he's kept his spirits, he's kept his enthusiasm, and there he is, Cipollini yet again, now 39 victories. He's chasing after the 41 victories of Binder. We shall certainly see him back next year, and the Italian crowd then love this guy. He'll be off shortly down to Monte Carlo, where he's got a modest apartment. I think his parents look after his Puma cat. He's got one of those too as well, but nevertheless, quite a character, Mr. Cipollini. Long may he stay on two wheels, and we look forward to seeing him again next year back in the Tour of Italy. And I hope, by the way, that you've enjoyed our coverage during these last 3 weeks. I remember last year we had a bit of a late agreement to cover it, and our schedules were all over the place. We've kept more or less all the way through this year, and I hope you enjoyed what we've been doing for you. Not always been able to put any highlight programs in the evening, but those who couldn't be with us in the afternoon maybe have recorded the whole of what has been a very, very interesting race. And who would have expected at the end of it all would have seen an overall classification where not only was an Italian first spot, but Tyler Hamilton from America in second spot. And then Coaccioli, a young up-and-coming guy, was into third spot. And then going down the list, even for like Tonkov, who's won this race in the past, coming back after a couple of bad years to finish overall fifth in the general classification. That old warhorse Escartin back there, just behind Toshnig, the Austrian, who again is, I want to say, going to his twilight years. I think he's 30 or 31 now. So it's been a race when young new bloods come along, with people like Evans there, who's now dropped to 14th overall. And also we must say well done to Cioni, the rider from born in Reading, riding for the Mapei team. He was a very spirited performance. Again, a mountain biker that's switched to two thin wheels. And further down the list of the mountain bikers too was Rasmussen, who's also done very well for the CSC Tiscali team. He finished 45th in the end, supporting the endeavours of Tyler Hamilton. So